Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're listening from. We note that there are many time zones in the United States and also around the world. And I'll be talking to a very important guest this afternoon, this morning, this evening. He's a poet and he takes relationships seriously. We'll be talking about his passion for relationship and poetry as well, and how it helped to guide his life. And one thing I'm gonna ask him about is his life in Chicago. Growing up in Chicago, we understand the intricacies in Chicago, the culture in Chicago. We're gonna talk more about that with my guest this afternoon, this morning, this evening. Let me let my guest in to the studio. Hey, Davis, how you doing? You good?
How you doing today? I'm good. I'm good. It's awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me here.
no problem. Thanks for coming on Canyouth Exploration, your topic in a podcast. First of all, who are you? Talk to me about who you are.
I am Mr. Yellow, the poet. I am actually the CEO of YTP Entertainment. I started YTP Entertainment back in 2010, and I've been performing my poetry through that platform ever since. I've added on my podcast and added on helping people with their relationships. So
Cool, cool,
it's
cool.
an honor and I love it.
Yes, yes, yes. I really love what you're doing, and it's important because we're going to be talking about a number of things that relate to relationship. But tell me about your childhood.
It's okay. So on my channel, what I do is I post up different podcasts that I have with different people in hopes that once we're done, they've gained something from it in terms of being able to cope with the relationship issues that they have in their life, or even just some inner personal issues that they may have in their lives. So I
Mhm.
actually focus on these things and I drive on it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
relationships, it's love, it's poetry, and it's life. You gotta
yeah.
have them all.
It's about empowerment. It's about inspiring others.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah.
indeed,
I
yes,
got you. I
indeed.
got you. And Canyouth Exploration speaks to that as well. That's what I do here. So we work together to empower each other, and
Yes,
empower others. But look, growing up, you grew up in Chicago, did you?
yes, yes, indeed.
Tell us about growing up in Chicago. I tell you a story though, right? I love Chicago, but the first time I'd gone to Chicago, I heard some sounds. You understand those sounds that you hear sometimes?
Yes,
And I was
yes.
saying, really? But it was Chicago. Chicago is still a beautiful place. Tell me about growing up in Chicago.
Well, I tell you, man, growing up in Chicago, for me, it was rough because the neighborhood that I lived in was one of the predominantly black neighborhoods, and it was also a mixture. One side, the black people lived on, and the other side, the white people lived on.
Yeah.
And a lot of the younger generation, because I never had any issues with the older generation,
Okay.
but a lot of the younger generation showed themselves to be prejudiced. They had to get it from somewhere. I'll
Yeah.
just put it that
Yeah. Yeah. I got you. I got you.
way. But when they would show themselves to be prejudiced, they came over to our side and literally tried to start fights with us, calling us all different types of racial slurs. Like
Yeah.
it was really crazy because we had to physically fight
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
show that okay, we're not going to take
Right.
this.
Right.
We're
Right.
not enslaved anymore. That's over with. So let it go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was that. Plus, after we finally got away from that neighborhood, we got away because the White Sox they purchased the land that we lived on. We
Yeah.
received no money, no anything for that. But when we tried to get anything from them, they turned us down. So we ended up having to leave out of that neighborhood, and then I moved into a mixed neighborhood.
Yeah.
And in that mixed neighborhood now, everything was a lot better. We had our typical
Yeah.
gang
I mean,
bangers, gang violence, and things of that nature, but it was much better. It wasn't as much going on. And due to the fact that that time I was actually studying Islam, I studied Islam for
okay.
17 years. And man, I tell you, the gangs actually understood that I was studying Islam rather than looking at it as I'm in some type of a gang, because I've never been a gang affiliated at all.
I know, right?
It was rough, man.
Hey, you growing up, 7, 12, what that was like, your parents, your siblings. Talk to me.
See, the funny part is I was born in my grandmother's house on my mom's side.
Oh.
I was born at home, literally on the kitchen table.
Yeah.
And my grandmother, as soon as I came out, my grandmother was like, Yehloe, because my grandmother's Native American. She was a full-blooded Cherokee.
Right.
So she was like, Yehloe. And everybody looked, because this is what I'm hearing. This is the story that I got. It's like everybody looked like, okay, why is she saying Yehloe? Well, it turns out that's the name that she was giving me, Yehloe. Yeah. So it carried on from then on. That was it. So growing up between 7 and 12, oh my goodness, man. I didn't have my parents in my life after that, because at the age of 5, my parents actually got divorced.
Okay.
But even before that, when I was born, my grandmother and my great grandmother on my mom's side actually kept me all the time. I was going back and forth between those two households all the time. And then there would be little small time frames where I did actually have a little bit of time with my mom and dad, but not much interaction at all.
Much. Yeah, I understand that.
And this is what actually got me into poetry as well, because looking back on my life, my grandmother on my dad's side took me from the age of 5 on up. Mm-hmm. So from the age of 7 on up, I started getting into poetry, learning a lot about Edgar Allan Poe, who was my hero at that time, because reading his stories intrigued me to actually find a different way to have an outlet.
Yeah.
It was crazy, because we go to school and we're literally walking over dead bodies. And we didn't stop to go see who this person was or who that. No,
I know, right?
You keep going, because I don't want to have anything to do with that. Keep my hands clean, keep everything else clean, and just get on out the way, keep it moving.
It reminds me of growing up in Jamaica in the ghetto.
Oh,
right? Yeah, literally walking over dead bodies. It's like that. I mean, what happened? We grew out of it, and we advance, and we talk about it.
Yeah.
But my question to you, right? You write about these things. I'd love to hear at least a standard, something that you have written.
Okay. I wrote this poem that I remember is called Struggle. Yeah. And with struggle, anybody who has gone through tough times in their lives and has been a part of anything that's political, they would actually understand where this poem is coming from and what's meant by it.
Okay.
So every day I was told that this right here is the sweet, sweet land of liberty. If this land is so sweet and liberal, then why am I surrounded by sin and fallacies? These people you even come from. They string us along and lie to us about the truth, trying not to make us feel dumb. The other cheek is turned while our children go outside to play, but their children have indoor pools, games, more money than they can count, and a nice place to stay. We live in a society controlled by greed, weed, and drugs. Territorial fools label themselves with tattoos as phony thugs. Peace is an unheard of area in our neck of the wood. We keep harping on broken promises that make politicians look good. The struggle is real. The struggle is real. Make no doubt about it, the struggle is real.
I love that. That sounds like Chicago, right?
Yes.
I know. The Chicago, like New York, would have this culture. You can feel New York. You can feel Chicago.
Yes, definitely. I think that most of us, when you look at New York, Chicago, California, parts of California like Compton, Long Beach, and different areas, I think we all can actually feel one another's presence when we come around one another.
Yeah, definitely. family is very important to you. I've read somewhere.
Yes.
Um, why is that so? Why family is important to you? Family time.
Family time is most important, one of the most important things to me, due to the fact that when I was growing up, I didn't have mom or dad in my life actively as much as some of my friends did. So when I listen to some of my friends talking about how they grew up in different, events that they had with their mom and dad and things of that nature,
Right.
at some point it actually saddened me. At other times it actually angered me because I was wishing to have that same type of relationship with my parents.
Yeah.
So I always said that when I get older,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do the same things to my children. So I
Right.
spent a lot of time with my children, making sure that I was active. When they had events at school, I'm there. When they have events outside of the schools, I'm there. When it comes to lifelong lessons, I'm there to teach them. If it
Yeah.
was something that they asked me and I didn't know, I would say, hey, that's a very good question. Let's both find out what this is about. And I
Yeah.
kid you not, my children, they never once called me a know-it-all because
Okay.
they know I'm not a know-it-all. If I don't know, we're gonna find out together.
I
And
love
I
that.
feel like that's really important for any parent to
Yeah.
do with their children.
Uh-huh.
Now, one of the things that my daughter just told me about a week ago, she said, Dad, I love the way you raised us because you didn't boss us around
Yeah.
and just try to make us do everything that you did or try to make us follow in your footsteps. You allowed us to say, hey, this is what I want to do. And you like, okay, well, go ahead, try that, see how it works out, and let me know if you need any guidance. And if you seen us going in the wrong direction, you would say, hey, I
Pull it
don't
up.
think that's a good idea because
Yeah.
this, my experience with that type of event is this, and I will break it down to them. And my children, to this day, they are extremely happy for
Yeah.
that.
Tell me about your family. Tell me, children.
So I have 6 children. I
Okay.
have 5 boys and 1 girl.
Oh, on the princess.
And my children, they actually ranging from 13 to 32. My oldest son is 32 years old.
Okay.
So my oldest, he's actually doing mechanics, and he's also a truck driver. And
Right.
then my other son up under him, he's actually a barber. So he's actually
Cool.
working as a barber. My other son up under him, he's just working, trying to figure out what he wants to do with his life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my other son up under him, we just got him out of a tough situation. So
Okay.
now he's rebuilding himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I have my daughter. She's working with Tesla, and she's doing
Okay.
great. She's growing with the company. They
Oh,
love her out
yeah.
there. I mean, it's awesome how much they love her. And she's getting ready
Yeah.
to pursue a career of actually being a nail technician. So she wants to have her own shop and everything. And I'm
Oh,
just
yeah.
taking her through the steps as far as management is concerned, and teaching her how
Yeah.
to do management and how to be fair to everybody. And
Yeah.
then my 13-year-old, he's just a computer fanatic. He likes to sit on the computer all the time. So we don't have any trouble out of him because he's not doing anything.
I think that's the time now, right? That's what the 13-year-old will do, right? I have one
Yes.
here as well. He love the computer. That's what they will do. That's crazy though.
So
Oh, you talk about family time and so on. How do you get that 13-year-old to move away from the computer a while to understand that, hey, don't mind, it's a big-minded thing. Talk to me.
Well, as crazy as it may seem, I just tell him, look, we need to actually spend time as a family.
Yeah.
You can't spend all of your life on the computer.
Yeah.
And then on the other times, like when he's done something, like say, for example, if he got a failing grade in school, okay, guess what, partner? It's family time. So now I structured things that we can actually do. And I already have them pre-planned just in case if he mess up, we got some family time to spend.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times he's so intrigued by whatever is going on that computer that he doesn't even want to do anything. Excuse me. And it makes it tough. sometimes. Then other times I have to just be like, look, shut the computer down. Look, we going outside. We going to go do some things. We're going to have a family dinner and everything. Let's go. And I just have to do it sometimes. I mean, it's better than teaching him that being on the computer is the greatest thing since sliced bread. No.
Yeah, I know, right? It's an odd thing. It's a generational thing because you and I are not the only two persons going through this right now as parents.
That's true.
We use a computer, oriented, but part of it, right? Generational.
Yes.
But your life, poetry might have changed your life or might have contributed to how you shape your life. Talk to me about that.
So my first start is the most intriguing one because remember I told you I started studying Edgar Allan Poe.
Right.
I came up with my own poem in 8th grade. It was I don't remember exactly what it was, but I do remember it was a poem about some form of making changes throughout life. And my teacher, I RIP to Mr. Donald Abernathy, because I kid you not, that man was one powerful, very motivational, very inspirational man. He really was. And he told me, he said, hey, I like that poem because I recited it to him. And he was like, we got we got an event coming up in the auditorium. And I was like, okay, yeah, I remember that. He was like, okay. And he didn't say anything else, right? So next thing you know, we get to the event and he's like, all right, so we got Mr. Yehloe who's going to actually recite a poem that he wrote. And I'm like, what? Are you serious? Never been on stage before now. Never. Right. And I'm like, what? Are you serious? And he was like, yeah, come on, man. Come on. Let's everybody hear this poem. It's like, it's a beautiful poem, by the way. Yeah. You all would really be inspired by it. For such a young man. You'd be inspired because it's different how this young man was thinking at his age. And I was like, seriously? Like, are you serious right now?
The wrong young man, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I get on the stage, I recite the poem, and I got my first standing ovation. Like, everybody was like, oh, wow, that was really powerful. You are such a bright young man. And I'm just like, my heart still like racing, like in the world that I just do. It scared the heck out of me, but it also inspired me to do it more often. Yeah. And one of the things that really helped me out a little bit later as I got a little older was I met with Charlie Wilson. I was 7 years old and I met with Charlie Wilson. So when I got to meet with Charlie Wilson spent a lot of time with me during this time. And he talked to me about things that would be good for life and things of that nature. He also had his drummer to teach me how to play the drums. Yeah. So much fun. And as I got older, I started actually performing in different events, different venues, and it just became a habit. I started performing in different cities and states and different events, and it just totally changed my perception on what message I had for the world. And it's crazy because it started literally from like 7 to 10 years old. That's when the message changed. It started right then and there.
Amazing. Yehloe. You're listening to Canyouth Exploration, your topic in a podcast. I am Dr. Canyouth White, talking to Yehloe. Yehloe is the color.
This one is Native American. Yeah. So it means I walk with the spirit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it has nothing to do with any colors.
Yehloe.
Yes.
Okay, well, my audience are not watching but listening on their favorite podcast. So that is spelled differently. I like the name Yehloe.
Thank you.
But look, you talk about building relationship, right? Mm-hmm. Building relationship. What is that? What is that in your mind?
So for me, when I talk about building relationships, I'm looking at every type of relationship or relationships from every level. So we're not just talking about couples. A lot of times people think about couples.
Yeah.
So I'm also looking at, take for example, like me, I was a single father for 4 years.
Okay.
So I had to learn how to communicate with my children because they came from a different generation than I did. They came from a whole different era. The communication was different. The interactions were different. So I had to learn how to communicate on their level. It took some practice. It was a lot of trial and error, but at the same time, it was also fun because I am I don't know what it is about me, but I love learning. And it's like, irregardless of what, I love learning. Learning is just the most inspiring thing to me ever. And that was a challenge, and I love that challenge. And my children are thanking me for that to this day. But also, when I talk about relationships, I also talk about communication because a lot of people don't understand that communication is one of the most important elements to any relationship, irregardless of what it is. Even when you're meeting a perfect stranger, communication is one of the most important elements that you have. But you also got to think about how many different types of communication that there are. If you can be at least halfway decent, and this is something I learned through my studies for psychology, but if you can be at least halfway decent in at least 3 types of communication, doesn't matter what it is, at least 3, you can pretty much almost communicate with anybody.
Nice. You talk about relationship building and the importance of communication in any relationship, because in fact, you and I now are having a relationship, a sort of connectivity, sort of and the importance of communication, right, and understanding as well, because I don't think we can leave understanding out of the realm of communication. Right?
Exactly.
Tell me though, your children, you have had, what, 6 children? You have 6 children?
Yes, I do.
And do they communicate differently with you? Naturally so. But how do you maneuver that sort of difference in communication? And,
So learning about different eras, because each one of my children, they're not exactly stair steps, so they're not like right behind each other. So different eras communicate differently. So believe it or not, a lot of parents feel like this is one of the bad things. They feel like you're making friends with your children just because you're communicating with them on their level. Like for example, my oldest son, he's 32 now. He was born in 1991. So in 91, a lot of times we would say chill, we would say cool out, man, I'm doing this. So I would use those terms when I'm talking to my son. Whereas a lot of parents would feel like, man, I'm not about to stoop down to their level, but it's not about stooping to their level. It's about teaching yourself how to grow as well as teaching your children how to grow. So when you're communicating with them on a level that they can understand, you're not only building a better relationship, but you're building a strong relationship. So a lot of people don't understand there's a difference between something being better and something being strong. When it's better, you're right there, you're in the door, but you don't want to just be in the door. You want to be in the door, sitting on the couch, going to the restroom, laying in the bed. You want to be able to be on there, so it's got to be strong in order for that to happen. Now you're building a foundation. You're also building a trust with your children or anybody else. It doesn't matter who it is, with anybody. You're finally building a trust. And that's the thing that's key to me, is build a trust. Because when you're looking at trust, just like you said, understanding is one of the key things. Now, with understanding, what I also look at is points of view. If I ask you what's your point of view on something, I have to be willing to sit back and listen to what your point of view is. Now, my counter to your point of view is helping you to understand what my point of view is, and let's see how we can meet in the middle. And walk away knowing that, okay, I understand you better and you understand me better. Not, oh, that's such and such, he just talking crazy. No, we don't do that. That's not the way to build.
You must be some clarity. But we talk about the children and the fact that they're, even though they're not step by step sort of situation, as you
Mm-hmm.
were saying.
Mm-hmm.
They think differently. Their friends are
Yes.
different, right?
Yes.
But in terms of men and women, we know that they're wired differently, right? You study
Yes.
psychology
Yes.
in
Mm-hmm.
psychology. What? How can they actually learn to communicate?
Mm-hmm.
Effectively, men and women.
So one of the key things, and I'm glad you said that because that's also very important. One of the key things is understanding one of the key things for males. We need to understand silent communication. A lot
Okay.
of men do not understand silent communication. I mean, and when I say that, let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Like, let's say, for example, you did something
Right.
and you don't know exactly what you did, but your wife is just looking at you like,
Yeah. Yeah.
really? You just did it. But a lot of males tend to ignore those
Yeah.
expressions, those signs,
Yeah.
instead of walking up to her and stepping to her correctly and saying, "Hey, baby, I noticed that you're looking at me strange, but I don't
Okay.
understand what's going on. Can you please help me to understand what's going on?" And I know sometimes they get a little flip, they
Yeah.
talk crazy, but don't get irate with them. Listen, hear
Yeah.
what they're talking about. Because one of the things that a lot of males don't understand is a woman is telling you how to solve the problem that she has right at that moment. But if we don't listen, we don't know that that's what she's telling you. You just think that she's yeah, and that's not the case. It's
Okay.
not the case. She's telling you how she may be loud, she may be a little belligerent, she may be saying things that you don't want to hear, but listen to the message.
Yeah.
Don't focus on the things that you feel like is hurting your feelings or feel like she's trying to hurt your feelings. No, 9 out of 10 women in this world, and this is statistics, you can look it
Yeah.
up, they are not trying to hurt you. They are more so trying to help you so that they can keep this relationship going because they get tired of jumping from
Yeah.
one relationship to the next one.
But we miss the message sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
We as men
Yes.
miss the message sometimes. Why?
Mm-hmm.
We listen, but we tend to miss the message.
Mm-hmm.
What's going
It's,
on there?
it's a lack of focus. It's a
Yeah.
lack of focus. And then you think about it. And I'm pretty sure you can relate to this.
Oh
Think
yeah.
about this. When we were growing up, anytime there was a sign of trouble, what was one of the first things that you did anytime there was a sign of trouble?
I,
Walk away.
oh
We
yeah.
walk away.
Well. Sometimes you walk away, right? There's some
Mhm.
people walk away. Sometimes you'd want to either stay or move towards the trouble. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm from the ghetto.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
But I understand.
even though we're moving towards it, we're still only
Yeah.
partially listening
Yeah.
to what's going on. So technically, we kind of like program ourselves to stay that way.
Yeah.
Now, once we get a little bit older, we're so programmed to doing it while we're
Yeah.
young. Once we get a little bit older, we're still following that same pattern, and we should have broken that a long time ago. But we have to be mindful that everybody is not taught the same too.
Yeah.
So that's another factor.
Yeah.
If your parents or the male role models in your life didn't know to teach you this, then how could they teach you that? They can't
Yeah.
because they don't know anything about it. And that was one of the things I had to talk to one of the young men who I mentor. I had to explain to him, don't get angry with your dad. Instead, teach your dad. Explain to your dad that this is the way things should have been between you two. And let's see if we can build from there. And
Yeah.
he actually has a far better relationship with his dad now because his dad is now showing that he's willing to reciprocate things that his son is talking about rather than just blowing them off.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's new things that, well, not necessarily new, because I was the dean of discipline at a high school in Jamaica, and
Mm-hmm.
the slang, so to speak, that these
Yes,
guys
yes.
I mean, one of the things that I couldn't understand, they're calling each other dog and so on, and I'm like, like, I mean, I'm marveled by it, and people would respond, the other person would respond, yes,
Uh-huh.
hey, I am dog.
Yes, yes. Well, you got to think about this too. Although we look at it as a slang,
Yeah.
the true history of DAWG
Okay.
literally
Right.
comes
Yeah.
back from history.
Yeah.
But because we're so programmed to DOG, we think that that's what they're talking about when they're talking to
Oh,
you. And that has nothing to do with it. We're not
I'm
calling you
learning.
an
I'm
animal.
learning, Yellow. Talk
We're
to me.
not
Talk
calling you
to
an
us.
animal. We're calling you one of the servants, which that's what they call some of the servants back then. They would call them dog, but it wasn't to belittle them. It was just a level in which they were on at that point in their lives. And you can look all this stuff up.
Yeah.
You
You know,
can,
Yellow, I'm not, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't know that. And it makes sense.
yes.
It makes sense. But I'm sure that a number of these guys don't know either. Right? I'm working
Well,
out there
it
with
depends too now because you got to think about some of the guys are in fraternities, and the
yeah.
fraternities, some of the fraternities actually use DAWG at a certain point in which these people are or whatever level they're on in that fraternity. So
Yeah.
some of them actually do know.
Interesting, interesting. You're listening to Canyouth, watching Canyouth Exploration. You're tapping in the podcast. I'm not to Canyouth, but I'm learning so much from Yellow. Right? Yellow, you do poetry. Do you sing as well? You have an inclination to do music. You talk about the drum and so on.
I
Yeah.
actually have a song out right now,
Oh,
and I don't sing on my music. I actually do my poetry on my music. And
yeah.
there's a song out right now. It's called Tempted by Love. I actually wrote this song for my wife.
Oh, okay.
And yeah,
Cool.
I wrote this song for my wife. And it's so crazy because when I first wrote it, I was the one who was the biggest skeptic because it was my work. So I was the biggest skeptic
Yeah,
on
I
it.
know, right?
I started playing it, and my wife was like, okay. She's like, hey, what's that? I say, I'll tell you in a minute. Just let me see how much they want to make sure that everything is right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she was like, man, that sounds good though. Next thing you know, here come my stepson, my
Yeah.
stepdaughter, my daughter, my son, my granddaughter. Everybody came into our room and they're like, man, that sounds good.
Yeah,
Who
yeah.
is that? Who is that? I was like, that's me. And they was like, what? They're like, what?
So you pull them into it, not knowing that it was your. Oh,
Yeah. So I do like to mix my poetry with my
yeah.
music, and sometimes I would just do it straight a cappella because I feel like the message is a little bit stronger depending on what I'm saying or what I'm
Oh, yeah.
doing. So I have on my platform on my podcast. If you go to my Spotify, you'll see I
Okay.
have this one called 60 Off the Top.
Right.
And 60 Off the Top consists of me doing poetry for 60 seconds off the top of my head.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So we have to have some more of the music and the poetry from you. So give us some stuff. Go on.
If you go to it's on my YouTube. So I would definitely have to go to my YouTube and pull it up. Some of these things
Okay.
that I've been doing for so long, it's like, oh my goodness, man.
Yeah, I know,
I'm
right? And
I'm
and
surprised at the
my audience, let me say this to my audience. You will see this in the description links where you can go and in contact Yellow if you may, right, and see some of his work as well. I'll ensure that it's there, right? But Yellow, while I'm waiting for you to give us a piece of
yes.
poetry and something, right? Tell me, have you ever gone to Jamaica? Let us reason. Have you ever gone to Jamaica?
I wish, man. I want to go to Jamaica. I want to go to Jamaica so desperately. I have
Yeah.
not been there yet, but it is in my plan. I do plan on going to Jamaica. Yes.
Yeah. Once you think music, man, you have to
I
be
want
there.
to
You
see
have to
some of
go
my
there.
brothers and sisters in Jamaica.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think though about the culture, the Caribbean
And
culture?
I want to get some of the Jamaican fruit.
Oh, yeah. What's your favorite Jamaican
Yes. Oh
meal?
my
What's your
goodness. I
favorite
want to go to
Jamaican meal?
Jamaica. I want to get some Jamaican. I want to get some Jamaican fruit. I want to taste some of the different dishes that you all have. Like, oh my goodness, man. I just want to try it. I just
Don't
want to
tell me
try it
jerk
out.
chicken. Don't tell me jerk chicken.
I can't
Jerk
wait.
chicken. Okay. Go ahead.
Oh yes, I love jerk chicken, man. I love jerk chicken. I love jerk chicken. We have a place out here in because I'm in Texas now, but we have a
Okay.
place out
Yeah.
here, and oh my goodness, the jerk chicken is so good. It is so good. And these people are literally from Jamaica that's making the
Oh yeah.
jerk chicken.
Right,
So
right, right,
I'm
right.
pretty sure it's authentic.
I mean, it seems like the Jamaican restaurant, the best seller is jerk chicken. I am from Florida. I actually, but I'm now in New York for a while. And
Okay.
I realized along the stretch, there's always a Jamaican restaurant who it's flooded with people from other race, other you know
Yes.
ethnicity, right? And it's really tells me I'm
Yes.
proud. It said that Jamaican food is delicious. It's sumptuous. Yeah. Yes.
Yes, it is. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I dated a young lady. She was
Right.
Creole.
Yeah.
And when I tell you her mom can cook so good, oh my goodness. That was some of the best food that I had ever tasted. And I was
I know.
there for well, we celebrated Thanksgiving. They didn't really like care too
Yeah.
much for Thanksgiving, but when I tell you
Right.
they still made a feast, and that food was so good, man. Oh my goodness.
Let, let,
I
let,
can
let me
still
let me
remember
ask
the
you this
taste.
now. Let me put you on the spot. Can you cook?
Okay.
What can you do in the
Yes.
kitchen?
Yes, I can cook. I can cook. I can burn. Thanks to my grandmothers, all three of them, I can burn. Yes, I can. And I tell you, I can cook some of the greatest tasting chicken. One of my famous dishes is called a turkey surprise.
Oh,
And my children beg me to make that all the time. They beg me to make my spaghetti because I make a spaghetti that's mean. Oh my goodness. And the crazy part is I'm allergic to pork and beef. So
right.
there's no pork, there's no beef in any of my dishes.
Oh, okay, cool. Cool. So the meatball and spaghetti. What the meatball is made of?
Turkey. It's
Turkey.
made
Oh,
of
yeah, yeah,
turkey
yeah. Turkey.
or chicken, either
Or chicken.
ground turkey or ground chicken. But the key thing to me is making sure that I have some turmeric in my seasoning. I
Okay.
have to have turmeric. Gotta have
Yeah. Yeah.
it.
So you're health conscious. You're in the health thing, and that's important.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, indeed. I found my
Yeah.
song. You ready?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm ready. I've been waiting. So Yellow is going to give you a truck, right? He's going to, make you feel good. Musical Yellow. Go ahead, Yellow.
Can you hear it? Can you hear it?
Go Yellow. It's not coming up.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Can you hear it?
Where? That's a little. Just a little. Up a little.
Oh, hold
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. We're in a little Yellow. But you're gonna have to put words to that because people listening around the world. Yeah.
Man, look, I tell you, this song
Yeah.
right now has more than 1,000 views. So
Wow.
people are definitely listening to it. Yeah. And it's got more than 40 hours of watch time. So people are definitely listening to it. It's on 25 different platforms.
And we're going to lead them there because more people will be listening to it after listening to you and this. But look, we want to be able to buy that, to purchase that. Is it purchase ever, so to speak? Can we
Oh, you
purchase?
can actually go to it's called DistroKid, DistroKid. It's called DistroKid. You can go there and you can actually purchase my song.
Oh, cool,
And it's,
cool.
believe it or not, it is dirt cheap.
Ah, Sound like a salesman. You sound like a salesman, you know. Salesman will say that.
I did a little bit of sales back in the day.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. You know, one of the things I am tempted to ask you, though, and I'm going to ask you, you know, is that you talk about your children and the fact that your youngest child, how old is your youngest child?
13.
13. And your
Mhm.
oldest child?
32.
Okay. You start very young.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's one of the questions I like to ask.
Yeah. So it's ironic because I was the same age as my dad when
Yeah.
I was born,
Okay.
and my girlfriend was the same age as my mom when my first son was born, and I'm their first son.
Was this a plan or it just happened?
I didn't even know, to the crazy part, I didn't even know until after my son was born,
Oh,
because when I had my son, I'm holding him, and then I took him to see my whole family because I was like super excited. And I even took him around my mom. I let my mom see him, and my mom was like, she was like, "You're 19." She's like, "How old is his mama?" I say, "She's 17." And she was like, "You know, your dad was 19 and I was 17 when we had
okay.
you." I was like, "No, I did not know that." I had no clue.
No, no, I know you talk about grandchildren. Tell
Yes.
me, that cat that did that catch your I think it's your son, one of your sons, right?
Hmm.
Did that catch your son? It did
Nope,
not.
it didn't.
Oh,
They were different ages. Yep, they were actually different ages.
yeah, I was just wondering if it's a pattern.
Now that would have been ironic, big
I tell you,
time.
right? Yeah, but you know, growing up in Jamaica, I realized this thing about teenage pregnancy, right? You
Hmm.
understand the concept and so on, and the perhaps the challenges when a child would come home, a teenager would go home and say, "Mommy, a female, I'm pregnant." You know, I know from my mother that child will be beaten. Hey, how you do that? Right? But so teenagers become scared when they do sexual thing and become pregnant, female, right? Um,
Hmm.
how about being scared? Were you scared at that age? I mean, I'm hoping it's not too personal, but
No, no, you're fine. You're
yeah,
fine.
right. Were you scared at that age?
So for me, I was more afraid of failure.
Okay.
That's what I was afraid of. I was more afraid of failure more so than, because like I said, I wasn't raised by my parents, so I really didn't have that
Yeah,
particular guidance that some of my friends had.
yeah,
But a lot of their parents did actually instill fear in them. If you get a child at a young age, and I'm gonna do this to you, or
yeah,
I'm gonna do that to you. But 9 out of 10, none of those things ever happened to them.
yeah,
And for me, my thing was I wanted to be able to be that father that provided for his
yeah,
child more than what I was provided for when I was growing up.
yeah,
Because I didn't get a chance to really celebrate like holidays, and I'm not a firm believer of holidays or anything like that. But I didn't get a chance to celebrate those things. I didn't get like all those gifts and stuff that everybody else got.
yeah,
It
yeah,
it, it just wasn't that type of party for me. But trust and believe, I don't feel bitter. I don't feel angry. I
yeah,
don't feel
yeah,
any regret or whatever it is for that. I'm just happy that I'm able to do something different from what was done to
yeah,
me, and that's
yeah,
to show love, help people out, and help to teach people something different from what they
yeah,
learned when they were growing up.
yeah. You know, we are two black men, and we are podcasters, and we're achievers in our own way,
Yes.
right? And I tell you this: I grew up in the ghetto. I grew up in the inner city in Jamaica, and now I have a doctorate, but I also have 3 master's degree, and I've been doing well academically and putting myself together. I'm saying all of this to have you talk to the the black youth. Let me say that in the
Yes.
community now who are having challenges in terms of poverty and not Naguan concepts, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
even the man, not only the youth, the man who 35, 40 say, hey, I'm a black man, not Naguan. It doesn't make sense. Nothing going on. Right? It
Exactly.
doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I even try. Talk to these people.
So the one of the key things is this: we have to lose the mindset that just because I live in a poor society or poor neighborhood or I'm a part of a poor family, we have to lose the concept that I would never be anything or I can't get anything or I can't do anything. We have to lose all of those concepts because I grew up in a hood. I mean, it was crazy gunshots, constant fighting, gang violence, people getting robbed, stabbed, and killed. I grew up in pretty much and my grandmother didn't have a lot to offer me. Not only was she, of age where she couldn't really do a lot for me or with me, but she didn't have a lot of money to offer me so that I would be able to go out and have fun and go to all these different events that a lot of my friends went to.
Yeah.
But I tell you this, when you get out of that mindset and realize that this right here is the first stage to your learning. Because when you start turning everything around that's happening to you, meaning, let's say, for example, you go outside and you see gang violence, instead of running to it, turn around, walk away from that, and go find you something else to do, or stop hanging in your neighborhood for a little while. Go somewhere different. Go to a family's house. Go to a friend's house and do something different. That way, you can start getting in the mindset that, hey, I can do something. I can do something different. Then, as soon as that opportunity knocks, because the opportunity always knocks, you
Yeah,
just gotta
yeah,
pay attention. You gotta pay attention when that opportunity knocks for you to do something better, like take for example that coach, that
yeah,
basketball coach, because I was on the basketball team too.
yeah,
When that basketball coach say, "Hey, man, you want to play for this team?" Yes, I sure do. What are we going to be doing while I'm playing?
yeah,
That was my opportunity to travel. That's my opportunity to get up out of the neighborhood. That's my opportunity to go play basketball somewhere else and able to see other people, to get the challenges with other people. So
yeah,
please, by all means, don't tell me you can't do anything, because you can. You can. Take the time out, and I'll tell you one of the most helpful processes that anybody in this world can utilize, and that's writing. If you're having issues and you feel like you don't have anybody that you can talk to, sit down and write those issues out. Go back and read those issues. Turn those issues into problems, because one of the things you need to understand, there's a difference between issues and there's a difference between problems. When you have an issue, it's ongoing. Why is it ongoing? It's ongoing because you didn't turn it into a problem where you can solve that and move on to the next phase in your life. And those are the things that we have to do.
yeah. That sounds good, Yellow. And the final question, I'm gonna put something to you and ask your opinion on it before we wrap up. Look, when I was doing my master's in psychology, I had was to do a research in the community. Well, I choose my topic, and the topic that it wasn't a thesis; it was just a simple research, during the course of the study. And I went into the community because the inner city, because I was studying why men refuse to engage or pursue higher education, right? Inner city men. And the results that I had gotten was one, look, I'm in this community and it's very violent, and I soon die. I mean, why spending money to do
Mhm.
higher education, and I can get anytime now by violence. And the next one is that I have a baby mother, and it's all about my baby mother, my baby, so I don't need to spend money on higher
Right.
education. What's your thoughts of that? Those
Well, I can tell you from the history that I learned in not only in psychology
Yeah.
but in my literacy classes, because I do have a bachelor's degree in
Cool.
business, and I also have two bachelor's degree in business, and also have an associate's in computers. So,
Cool. Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things that I learned in my literacy class is that the concept of education, when it comes to men in general,
Yeah.
educating themselves, a lot of times we take the context of education out of context,
Okay.
because every day we're actually learning things, and we're learning things at a pace that we are comfortable with. Now, once we start going to school, a lot of us are not comfortable with that pace of learning, because everything is
Yeah.
timed. It's about timing at that point.
Yeah.
So they're used to that old ancient way of learning, where when something comes across your path in life, you start taking that and doing whatever you can with that, or whatever you think is right or wrong with
Yeah.
that, and you assess that situation to the best of your ability, without trying to take it a step further to learn something different about it, or learn something more about it.
Yeah.
And we get so stuck. It's like we don't realize that you have to manifest to another level. You have
Yeah.
to. And then it becomes fear. Once we get in school, it becomes fear. Now I feel like I have to compete with everybody else. I have to keep up with everybody
Yeah.
else before I can actually go to the next level. And it
Wow.
becomes fear. A lot of people are afraid of competition, and learning can be competitive at times.
Definitely. Hey, that's super yellow. And, and here we are, two educated black men having a discussion and trying to empower not only other black men, but
Exactly.
everybody,
Yes.
whatever color,
Yes.
whatever race you are from.
Yes.
We care about you and we want to ensure that you're empowered. Hey,
Yes.
yellow, it's nice to meet you, man.
It's a pleasure, my friend. Definitely.
Yeah,
Dr. White, I greatly appreciate this, man. No doubt. Thank you
thank
so
you,
much.
thank you, and thanks for coming. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
So that was Yellow. You heard him. He had so much to say, and many of you will be inspired by what he have said, and his journey through Chicago, and to where he's at now, and you listen to us, two black men talking to encourage you, no matter where you're from, what race you belong to, but guess what happened? We're human beings who need to love each other. Love is important. Communication is important. You heard me talk about that. Understanding is important. And we want to achieve together. We want to be shining light in society, wherever society you are, in America, in the Caribbean, wherever. We want to strive and be able to contribute to society as human beings. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching Canyouth Exploration, your topic in the podcast. Goodbye.